value time.
Absolutely.
So why would you say things more than once?
So I'm in Vegas and I've just wrapped up an episode with Mr. Brad Lee. Brad is the CEO and founder of a company called LightSpeed, and LightSpeed are responsible for hosting some of the most successful educators in the world. Brad and I talk about a few things. One of those subjects is creating a training culture within your business and the importance of doing so. Second thing we talk about is do most companies train people or just expose people to training? And then the third thing is, what are the 4 steps required for delivering and implementing a successful training culture within your business? If you're in a company that has a reasonably high turnover of staff, then you absolutely will not want to miss this episode. Please check it out and I hope you enjoy it. Well, thank you so much, Brad, for inviting me and allowing me to sit in your, in the master's seat, we're in Las Vegas in the Dropping Bomb Studio. Is this what you call it, the Dropping Bomb Studio, or is it the LightSpeed VT HQ?
Well, it's LightSpeed Studios, but we are in the Dropping Bomb Studio. Yes, we are.
Right. And how long you been in Vegas with LightSpeed?
Well, LightSpeed was born and raised here. I came in 91.
Right.
So LightSpeed was born in 99.
Really? So what made you come out to Vegas, the house of, or the city of lights, and like the picture to the left of us, casinos, and you got an education company here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know your audience, so I don't know if I should be raw and real or
Go
PC and limited. Because again, I mean, it says escape your limit, so I'm not sure if I want to be limited.
You could be unlimited, Brad.
Well, I came to Vegas in 91, basically after 4th of July party, and my buddy called and said that there was nothing down here but palm trees and ladies. UNLV, I'm like, I'm going to go down there and visit. So ultimately I came down for a trip, just, had $2,800 to my name, figured I'd come down here. That'd be enough to come down, visit, get back home. So I came down first day, spent it all, and had to get a job to get home. And when I got a job, I started meeting locals and going to local places, in which case I found this little lady friend and ended up staying the rest of my life, or so far, the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I ended up just staying. Came down to visit for a day or two and ended up having to stay.
Right. And where are you from originally? Where's the accent from?
Most people think Texas, but it's actually Oregon. I grew up in Oregon, small town in Oregon, Cottage Grove, Oregon.
Right.
Originally. Then I moved to Eugene, then Portland, but Oregon.
That's where the accent comes from. So you are the man in the world of education. I've been told.
I am. Not so much education as it is training.
Training, okay.
Yeah, I invented a training software that's the best training tool on the planet Earth. And so I've helped a lot of, large companies, gyms also, but large companies, a lot of people, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, John Maxwell, Grant Cardone, a lot of subject matter experts, Daymond John, Daniel Negreanu, Buddy Velastro. So it just depends, but ultimately when they wanted to train people, I'm the software they use.
Right. And was that something that came into your mind before you got to Vegas, or was it like an idea that you just came? It seems like a strange business to get into, running out of money, going to Vegas, blowing it, and then getting into the training and education business. What was that jump?
Well, it was on accident. So ultimately I was running a car dealership, and I took this guy out of the back that was making minimum wage, and I showed him how to make $15,000 a month. And his whole life changed. And I'm thinking, man, that felt pretty good. Like, just to ultimately have the ability to change someone's life for the better like that. So I figured I'd quit my job and go out and start a training company, since I had this amazing ability to share my knowledge, and people, quadrupled their life, or at least their revenue, which always helps your life. So at the end of the day, I went out there and started doing it, and, on the road, and found very quickly that it wasn't working like it used to. And I couldn't understand. Like, I used to be able to produce high-powered people left and right. Now I'm out on the road doing it and it's not working. So I'm thinking, what the hell's the difference? So I did a little research and I found 4 ingredients that if they're not present in a training program, it's not really training. It's more just, exposing. So when most companies think they have a training program, they actually have an exposure program.
And explain the difference then? When you say exposure, what do you mean by that?
Well, they're just exposing people to information. They're not really training somebody. See, so when I worked at this dealership and I used to take, someone flipping burgers, turn them into a salesperson making good money. I'd take, somebody that came in with sales training and make them better. I could take a really good sales manager and make them better. So I was capable of producing high-powered salespeople. And that's a valuable tool if you're in the sales business. Well, regardless of cars, art, furniture, cosmetic surgery, doesn't matter. Whatever you're selling, health clubs, equipment, whatever. You need to know how to sell, persuade, move people in your direction. So when I could teach people that and produce high-powered quality individuals, it was the benefit of the company I was working for. However, once I did it successfully for so long, I thought, shit, I'll just go start a company doing this. So when I started a company and went out on the road, I did the same exact thing, but didn't work, and I couldn't figure it out. That's when I did research. So the research showed me that there's 4 key ingredients. The first one is good content. Okay, if you don't have good content, well, let's put it this way: if you train someone effectively to do it wrong, they'll do it wrong. So you need good content to begin with. How do you do it right? That knowledge. Then you have to have repetition. Then you have to have practice. Then you have to have accountability. So it's good content, repetition, practice, and accountability. Now, if you look at most companies, or people for that matter, their training program, there is very little repetition, if any. Most of them, there's none. Okay, so there's no repetition. Okay, there's very little practice, and there's very little accountability. So really, what are people doing? They're giving out good content with a little exposure, very little accountability, very little practice or role play, and then they're checking a box saying this person's trained. But they're not. They're just exposed. And you're walking away thinking they're trained when they're not. So I discovered that out on the road. How? Well, because I couldn't get everybody to produce like I used to. So I'm like, what did I used to do? And I'm just sitting there picking my brain and thinking and doing the, Benjamin Franklin, like, what did I do here? I'm not doing here. And I just studied and did a little research. And I came up with, okay, so I'm saying the same thing. I have that on both sides. And then I'm like, oh, I remember when I was working at the company, I would go over everything more than once. So many times they would get annoyed. Like, we've already covered this. I know we're going to cover it again. But because I was in charge, they didn't have a choice. So repetition was something I was doing. Well, out on the road, I was given the good content, but dude, I couldn't stick around. I had to fly back home. I had to move on to the next customer. So there was no repetition. I went in and I said it once or twice, and I left. There was no practice because, again, I'm only there a day. I can't sit there and practice for months. And there was no accountability because the managers didn't even sit in the training. So the managers who are actually there to hold people accountable didn't even know what I covered, so they couldn't hold them accountable, and neither could I because I left. And they didn't work for me. So what I did is I invented a software that allowed me to deliver the content, right, with repetition, allow them to practice and role play in this software, as well as track, measure, and monitor everything. So now we could hold people accountable. So we could see who's learning, who's not, who's weak, who's strong, what they thought, their personality styles. We could leverage this technology to deliver, track, and measure information. And then I used it for my own training, and then it solved the problem. All these people were getting better again. But the cool part is I didn't have to be on the road because all I did was basically recorded what I would have said had I walked in the building. However, the twist was when I walked into buildings, I would ask questions. I would respond based on their answers. So when you make a video, it's one size fits all. Like videos don't change. They don't adapt. They don't ask questions. They're just videos. So I had to figure out a technology that allowed me to make interactive video that allowed me to ask questions and change what I was going to say based on their choices, options, and assessments. So now I could walk in and almost train people one-on-one. And so once I realized, holy crap, this thing's freaking amazing. What? And by the way, I didn't create it. Everyone always says, you were a programmer? No. I found people and ultimately had it developed. So it worked extremely well. Everything was going great. Next thing you know, I've got 80 companies giving me $1,000 a month just to access my system. So I'm doing like 80,000 a month, and I'm thinking, man, I'm rich. This is all I need to do. And then what happened was I ran into a bunch of people saying, well, we use this expert or that expert or, this celebrity or that celebrity, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar. In my industry, that particular industry, there was Grant Cardone, Joe Verdi, Alan Ram, Dave Anderson, and the list goes on. Tom Stuker, these guys. I was just a kid back then and didn't have a reputation. So I didn't want to compete against these guys. And I'm thinking, well, I if you can't beat them, join them, right? And I'm thinking, well, how can I join them? I'm like, I'll tell you what. I know businesses that won't buy my content because they want theirs. I know that they're having the same trouble I am because if you train people live without technology, you're more than likely doing it wrong, or you're taking a long time to do it, or you're spending a shit ton of money to do it.
Because is that right?
Well, it can happen in real life. Like, go look at the military. You send a soldier, an 18-year-old kid, into the military, and they come out 3 months later, a soldier, right? See what they did for 3 months. Same shit every day, and they were held accountable, and they got it drilled, practiced, and rehearsed, and now they can probably stay alive. What if you went to war, they threw you a videotape and said, watch that once. All right, get your weapon and go. So military can do it. Top athletes, take a farm league baseball player, send them up to the majors and let that major train them. More than likely, after a while, they're going to be an excellent ball player. Well, why? They're doing the same things over and over. It's the same training philosophies. So it can be done manually without quote unquote technology. But when you're a business with 50 sales guys all over the country, how are you going to manually go make sure every single one of those people are fully trained and aware and capable as an individual or even a team of people? You can't without leveraging technology.
Right.
So I got lucky.
So what would you say then? I guess it's not just sales. It could be everything, I suppose, like, from customer services to all different
parts. We're teaching people how to cook,
right.
Teaching people how to play poker, fix cars, sell, close, persuade, knit, swim, whatever.
So how have effective businesses done that? I guess we're in Vegas, and I suppose a lot of these hotels, they must have this process dialed in. Particularly some of the very high experience hotels. In your experience, then, have you found businesses that are just really, really good, do exactly what you say? They just continuously drill those basics over and over again to the people that are working in them.
Well, when you do find a good company that has a great training program, repetition will be a part of it. That's a fact. So will accountability and practice and whatnot. But most companies are doing it manually, and they're just spending a lot of time and money to do it. That's the only difference. So like, you can do it without technology, but you can do it far quicker or much faster and far less expensively if you leverage technology.
Right. And what about that human element then? If I guess when you go in a room and you go to a seminar and you have some sort of face-to-face learning experience, you do get, there's something different that you get from watching on a screen. Are you suggesting that those are combined, or can you get as much success just doing it, I guess, remotely?
Well, if I had my druthers, I would do a blend, meaning I would come in, train you live, and then I would use the system to deliver the accountability or the repetition and the testing, the comprehension, the measurement, the role play, the practice, and the accountability. So I would do a blend if I had my druthers. I think ultimately, face-to-face relationship building, warm and fuzzy, nothing can really replace that. However, if I've got 50 salespeople in 50 different states, how am I going to get that anyway? Fly them all in? Well, how much is that? And how much does that take? So why would I fly them all in if I could deliver almost what I would have said had they flown in to them on demand at their own schedule? Well, as long as I can track and measure them, it makes a big difference. See, because most people, they're wanting to see the wrong thing when it comes to training. Like there's training systems out there, and the reporting says how long or if they watched the video. That's what it tells you. Did they watch the video? Yep. When in reality, what you really want to know is, did they understand the video, right? Because who cares if you watched it if you didn't understand it? So watching the video is the wrong metric. They're looking at the wrong dial. Yep, they watched the video. Okay, we're good. No, sir. No, sir. That's not what you look at. You look at, did they understand? And then after did they understand it, okay, now can they do it? Isn't that really what's important? You're trying to train them to do something, right? So who's measuring and practicing and role playing and seeing if they can actually do it? A lot of times nobody. Or managers are, but then you go back to the old problem I mentioned where managers aren't even getting trained the same as the frontline employees in some cases, which means I might be a manager taking manager training to manage people, but I don't know what those people took, and those are the people I'm managing, so I'm not even sure what they're supposed to be doing. So how am I supposed to hold them accountable? Dude, I'm telling you, if I could grade the quality of training that exists in companies today, regardless of the company, even if it's the best in the world, I would say that it's either spending way too much time and money to do it. Because again, you can do it without technology. It's just a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of money. So in most businesses, especially small to mid-sized businesses, we don't have that kind of money and time and resources to train our new receptionist. Okay, so guess what? Why not just give them a password and have the best receptionist on planet Earth pop up, run them through a few things, test them, make sure they understand it, and then start practicing, right? And then if and when you have time to spend the real money or the big money flying them somewhere or flying someone in, you add that. You know what I'm saying?
How are you getting that feedback if you're doing it? You said the sort of practicing and role play. Then is that what you would do with a manager, for example, or would you do that within some kind of system as well?
Well, we with our system, you can create interactive exercises and role plays to measure and see if they can do it. So, like if I teach you 10 different rebuttals to get past objections, well, now I'm going to throw you some objections. And if you can't get past them virtually, you're not going to get past them with a real customer either. So what do most businesses do? They set you in a room, give you the rebuttals, send you out, customer walks in. That's when they decide whether or not you're good, is on customers. So technically they're practicing on real customers when they could be practicing on virtual customers.
And how are you doing that? Like they're typing it in, or they're speaking in front of a camera? What's
well,
the sort of
soon it'll be speaking, because voice recognition is really what we're playing with a lot lately. But right now you just pick a choice, click, touch, depending on what you're on. If you're on your iPhone, you just touch it. If you're on a mouse, you'll click it. But ultimately, I just ask you questions. Like right now, I could say, so let me ask you this. Would you rather say this or say that? If someone says, well, I'd say that. Oh, man, you just pissed off that customer and actually caused him to not buy. Let's try again. So ultimately what you do is you simulate what would have happened in real scenarios, right. Just like you'd role play in real life. How would you sell gym equipment? You're training me how to sell gym equipment to, Lifetime. You want me to go get you the Lifetime deal? I'm in there. You're going to say, okay, you're going to hear some objections. How would you train me? It's the same way. Well, how do we do it in the technology? We create interactive scenarios and see if they can navigate them.
Are there certain things that you can train, like sales? I understand that, but if you've got, say, for example, you've got something where you want to train someone to be a personal trainer, is that something that you're able to do virtually, do you think, as well?
Well, of course. Matter of fact, we do that. We were the only system accredited 100% online to deliver a personal training certification from one of the biggest ones. I forget the name of them, but NASM maybe? I don't know. Don't quote me on that. So yes, we can do it because most of physical training or personal training certification, isn't that pretty much knowledge?
I guess there's some physical part where you're working with.
I don't know. I've seen people with, without legs as personal trainers, and they can't do the exercise. They know how to do it, though, and they know if you're doing it right or wrong, and I can explain to you what to eat, and I can explain to you, and it's pretty much all knowledge. Like, you don't have to have done the exercise to know how to build a pectoral muscle, do you?
Yeah, I guess the basic skills, you're right. How do you deal then with the softer interpersonal skills? Like, I guess sales is a lot of that anyway. How are you getting that side of things over then?
It's all pretty much, how would we have done it in real life? Can you do it in real life?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, then you can do it virtually. Because all we're doing is emulating what you would have done in real life through full motion interactive video. And then we're going to deliver it with repetition. We're going to track and measure everything, including comprehension. And we're going to have analytics and reports and notifiers and reminders go out to the people that care. So it's like all I'm doing is accelerating and automating what you're going to try to do inconsistently, imperfectly, and very expensively. Because like, what if you're my company trainer and you're right now going and you're doing a hell of a job? First of all, I'm paying you what? How much a year?
If you're a trainer,
I'm paying you. You're my trainer. You're going around all my clubs and you're teaching everybody about the fitness equipment. How much am I paying you? At least 60.
Okay.
If you're any good.
Yeah.
Okay. I might get you for 36, but you're out reading information to people. You're not training anybody anything. You're just exposing people. But still, that's $36,000 a year. How many gyms can I send you to? Pretty soon, guess what? You won't be going to the gyms in person. You know what you'll be doing? Webinars, Zoom meetings. Get all your employees to log in at 5 o'clock. Brad's going to be on there talking about the Buster Ball 2000 and how to use it. Right or wrong?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah,
so I'm not in person anymore.
We're doing that a lot.
Exactly. So I'm not in person anyway. And guess what? Brad explaining that Buster Ball 2000 has no clue whether or not every single one of those people, quote unquote, on the webinar is learning shit. Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay, so guess what? We're flying blind.
Their emails, I guess, when they're watching it, probably.
We're flying blind, and we're exposing people to information, and we're hoping that they get it. But the crazy part is most of us are doing it enthusiastically, meaning we don't know that that's kind of worthless. So right now there's webinars going on every day. There's companies right now doing training webinars, and they're like, they're going through the motions, and then they're thinking that's how you do it. So right now they're in blissful ignorance, if that makes sense. In other words, they don't know they're doing it wrong.
So do you know? Have you got any examples of statistics of the difference it makes between having some kind of the traditional system and the way you're talking about that training's going now? What's the difference to the bottom line? As a business owner, am I going to be making more money from doing things differently? Do you think?
100%. Not only does it save them money, it makes them money because the training actually becomes effective, and the results and the productivity and the reduction in liability and all the things that are, intended by our intention of training in the first place actually happen. So like, have you ever went in and trained a team and got 20% better results? Right? So let's say a gym does on an average, let's say 10,000 a month. Well, I go in there and we train their team spend 3 weeks with their sales team on site, working with them and role playing with them. And, next thing you know, their sales are up 20, 30%. Why? Well, because we taught them how to follow up. We taught them what to say. We taught them how to close deals, overcome objections. We spent 3 weeks there. By the way, forget how much it cost. That's just what we did. And we got a 20% uptick in sales, and then everybody's happy. And then those trainers stop doing it. And then what happens? They go right back over time down to nothing again. Why? Well, because number one, people have turnover. So the people that you trained, I'll bet you if you look, some of them aren't even there anymore. And then the other ones started going back to their old ways. Why? Because there wasn't any repetition and there was nobody holding anyone accountable to the training. So now it slowly goes away. Yeah. And eventually now you're in the same situation. You have to bring those people back and spend all that time and money. And it's like a shot in the arm. Why not just give everybody a password and have that individual remain in their pocket 24/7? To where I'm going to train you every day. I'm going to touch base with you every day. I'm going to make sure you are engaged every day. What if I showed you, and by the way, dude, this is just between me and you. There's other ways you can use my personal training system. This is the only training system. I mean, this sounds like a commercial right now.
Without trying to sell your system.
I know, but and I'm not trying to, but this gets me excited because what if I could tell you as an organization, I could identify every single unengaged clock watcher you have on your team?
Yeah, that would be pretty valuable.
Would it? Be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, hugely valuable. Well, I can show you how to do it using our system. It's simple. You call a meeting. Everybody walks in. You simply say, look, guys, I love everybody here. I want to thank you for working for my organization, but I want to make one thing clear. I want everybody here to win. I want you to become a better person. I want you to be better for your family, better for my customers, better for our group. We just want you to be better. So I've created a training system that will teach you how to get the raises you're looking for, how to become more valuable to yourself, your family, and my customer, to become more valuable to me. It's right there. Here's your password. Feel free to log in and do whatever you want to do. And then I'd adjourn the meeting. And then 7 days later, I'd press a button and I would see who logged in. Because anyone who didn't are the people you're looking for. Those are the unengaged. They don't give a rat's dick about you, your company, your customer, their family. They're just floaters, and they are going to stand out like you wouldn't believe.
But don't you? I've read some information, I don't know how accurate it was, about people who go to seminars, pay a lot of money to buy a bunch of, like CDs or books or whatever, and don't even open the box. So these are people that are probably committed to even go somewhere. They've probably written a big check to pay for it, and yet they still don't even bother doing it. And I've heard it's similar to books. So what would you say about that then?
Well, exactly. Do you want a bunch of those people working for you?
No, not really. But is that just generally what people do?
Yeah.
Is it just a small percentage of people that are actually going to?
No, the majority of the people are the people that will not learn anything. Yeah. And they don't care about your customer, dude. They don't care about your account. They don't care about whether or not you have a happy family. They want their check.
So how do you deal with, if you've got, like a lot of people that are listening to this or have, chains of organizations, maybe hundreds of locations with hundreds or maybe even thousands of trainers.
Yep.
How, you obviously can't just kind of scrap them off.
You don't scrap them off. You give them technology and let them do what they do 10 times better than they're doing it currently. You give them, you leverage technology. I always have a saying, there's only going to be two kinds of companies in the future. Only two. The ones that use technology or the ones that make it. There will be no other ones left. So either use it or make it, or you're going out of business.
Yeah. And what are some of the challenges? Because we've just, a year ago, we've just, we had a company come in, they're put together a sales training process for us, and pretty expensive, but it's been good. But one of the challenges that we've got is just getting people to follow, because it's like,
what do you call that?
What do we call that? What, when they don't follow it?
No, trying to get people to follow it. That's called accountability.
Right. Okay.
You're trying to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Well, you know
Particularly when
why?
you've got a lot of people and you've got a lot going on as
Thank
well. It's one of the things. It's like, oh, okay, well, we'll skip that
Yeah.
this week because we've got a lot. We need to bring some money in.
Dude, you're saying exactly what everybody faces. We all face the same problem. Holding people accountable is difficult.
Yeah, it takes
Not-
a lot of effort.
Not only that, but like if you've got 50 people, how the hell am I supposed to go ask 50 people, did you understand everything? I can't. I have to make some assumptions. I have to go, you know what? Matt was on the webinar. He's trained. When in reality, no, you weren't. You were not. I'd say, Billy or Sue, they went through the material. They're trained. No, they weren't. Nope, sorry. So how do I hold people accountable manually? It's difficult, so guess what we do? We just don't do it. And therefore, your training's not working. It's just like if I go to the gym, right, and work out. I go in there, I talk to the receptionist for 45 minutes, and I go home. And I really believe that that's working out. 6 months later, someone says, how's your exercise program going, Brad? What would I say? It doesn't work. Exercise doesn't work, man. I'm still just as fat as I was when I walked in there. And then someone would have to say, no. You're doing it wrong. So right now, your company, my company, every company out there in the world has never seen a better way of doing it. So that's all I did is accidentally figured out a better way to train people. And it doesn't eliminate trainers. It empowers them.
Right. So what would be the typical? Okay, let me come back first. You've been doing this for 20 some odd years now. So you've obviously learnt a lot. What are some of the things that you've learnt over that period that haven't worked, and how have you fixed it to make it a success? Because I guess there's a lot of people who are happy to write a check and say, okay, let's write a check. This will solve my problems. But there's got to be also some responsibility for the company, I guess, to make sure this works. So what have you found when you first started selling this that kind of you needed to evolve in order to make the business that invests in this as successful as what they could be?
Well, that's a great question, and we just continue to improve the technology. But at the end of the day, when people call and say it didn't work, it's usually because they didn't work. Meaning, if I tell you that 18 people didn't log in and train, and you're the manager, and you don't do anything about it, well, then that's not gonna work. So the technology is a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool. So it's like, I bought a treadmill. No one came to my house to see if I was riding it, right? Is that the manufacturer's fault? So when it comes to my technology, we'll show you how to use it. We set it up. We get it going. But if the company itself doesn't apply it, it's not going to work. It reminds me, I have a buddy that opened up a high-end clothing store. And I'm like, how's it going? After about 6 months, he said, oh, it's unbelievable, man. We're killing it. My only problem is I've got some sort of theft because there's a lot of stuff disappearing. And I'm like, oh, bummer. What are you going to do? He says, I'm going to get a camera system, security, surveillance. So he installs this surveillance equipment, $100,000 worth of surveillance equipment. And a couple months later, I said, what happened? He said, oh, I found out who was stealing. I said, who? He says, it was my two best salespeople. I said, oh, that's bummer, dude. He said, yeah. And I said, so what'd you do? He said, I got rid of the cameras. That's what most people do. They get rid of the cameras, which is what's funny. But use yourself as an example, because right now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, dude, we're doing webinars. Listen, it's the only way to do it. Unless you stop, find a technology like mine, and virtualize what you do. And then, it, again, is not better than a blend. Like for example, if I did a webinar, I want to do a webinar because it's live and you can ask me questions in real life and there's a human being having a real conversation, and that's worth something.
Yeah.
And then when I'm done, I'm going to say, okay, everyone, now log into the system, go through this again 4 times, because that's what it's going to require.
4 times.
Yeah, dude, do you want to go to a church where the pastor read the Bible once? Do you? You want to go to a plastic surgeon who did the surgery once? Yes or no? Like, come on, dude. Repetition. We say our ABCs a million times. School's 12 years, not 12 days. We need repetition. Even strength training, dude. What if I went in and lifted a weight once? Once isn't going to do anything. Okay? Going through something once is like exposing me. Make me go through it several times. Go to any company and watch. Say, hey, what do you do for this training? They go, oh, they'll do this. And then say, do they just do it once? And if they say, yeah, they just do it once. Or most of them will look at you and be like, what do you mean? Well, I mean, do they do it more than once? Why do you think when people are certified by state and governing agencies, it's a certification required annually, which, by the way, is not enough, but it's annual. Why? Because they want to check every year that you know what's up. And how do they check? They come in and they ask you some questions. So the testing is what's important, not the information. Like, dude, I don't care how you became a lawyer. If you know the law, I test you, you know the law, just like a person that went to school 12 years. I don't care where you went to school. What I care about is, do you know the law? I don't care if you're a personal trainer that has no limbs. Do you know what I need to do to get the results I'm looking for? If the answer is yes, I do, well then, dude, you're certified, right?
And are you talking about when you talk about the repetition? Are you saying that it's really important not just to be able to recite information, but to be able to, I guess, reproduce those skills and techniques? Is that what you're talking about in terms of repetition? Because in our world, the fitness industry, would you be testing them on how proficient they are at engaging and delivering something to people over and over again, or is it, look, as long as I know how these things are connected to each other and they can recite that 3 or 4 times, and that's enough? What's
That's not enough, but that's a good start, isn't it?
Okay.
Or what's the alternative? They don't know?
So in terms of sales then, like have you got any data to say that if you want to take someone, like you talked about the guy who was a car mechanic, I think he was, and you taught him to be a salesperson, what is that repetition? What is a good frequency? Is it once a month, once a year, once a quarter? How often are you teaching those skills to get someone that's totally never done sales before, to get them to be able to be a pretty decent level salesperson?
Daily. Yeah. Like you
Really?
train them every single day.
For how long?
Just like you do if you want to stay in shape physically.
Just consistently.
It's like
just keep doing it, do you? Every day, no matter what you practice.
Yeah, it's like showering. It's like just a good habit to get into. But yeah, I mean, like every single day, I would train them every day. Every day.
So you're in was that right? You were in the car business before?
Well, I've been in a lot of businesses, but at that particular time, I was running a car dealership.
Right.
And yeah, if you worked for me, we would train every single day. Get there 15, 20 minutes early, start throwing out objections. Let me hear you respond to them. It beats what most car dealerships do, which is no training, which is why everybody, can't stand car salesmen. Well, dude, it's because 90% of them aren't even trained. Number 2 problem is, half of them think they know the facts when they don't. So who's training these people? And then the answer is going to be nobody. It's ugly. It's an ugly mess out there. And let me just tell you, I haven't even begun to scratch the surface. And we've got, we're doing millions of dollars in revenue. We have huge companies. We have millions of users. And we haven't even scratched the surface. There's 28 million small businesses in the United States alone. Now, they all want to get bigger. They all want to grow. They all want to, scale, correct? Most of them. Okay, forget the mom and pop that, they're just happy getting their, whatever. Real businesses. How do you scale a business? It changes, man. Just because you trained them last month doesn't mean they're trained today. Technology's changing. Do you leverage social media? We have all the Gold's gyms that use our platform. We've got gyms and fitness facilities use our platforms. They're training people. Remember when I said good content's key? So again, sometimes the content's the problem too.
Yeah.
It's like you're training 1984 sales techniques in 2019. You're teaching old school crap that doesn't work anymore, man. You're not leveraging social media. You don't even know what social media is cool. You don't know how to build a brand. You don't know how to teach your employees to build their own brand within your organization, which is critical, right? You want to do lead generation, don't you? You're spending all this money advertising ineffectively, and you're thinking it's effective, which means you're like, "Oh, dude, this is awesome." See, that's the funniest thing that I've noticed is people that really kick an ass, they're doing so well, they think they're the rule. You know what I mean? That like dude, we don't need anything. We're killing it. When in reality, if we had a crystal ball and they were training people better, they'd be killing it 10 times more. They just don't realize it.
How much time do you think people need to be within an organization need to be spending in a typical week learning and going through training? Because I guess it sounds, when you start explaining it like that, even regardless of what role, it's like, how much, it sounds like it's a lot of work to do.
Hey.
It sounds like you've got to make a big commitment into
Oh
it.
yeah, look at, see, that's funny. You're laughing even saying that. Yeah. Anything worthwhile's a commitment.
And what is, so putting some figures to it on a typical week for a typical role, and you've done this with thousands of people. What percentage or how many hours in a week should people be training on what they're actually delivering to clients, customers, etc.?
Well, if you want a top-notch, unbelievably trained and skilled team of people, 5 to 10 hours a week.
Really?
Yeah, minimum. Like, you could do more, but 5 to 10 hours a week.
And have you seen that? Have you seen that play out in terms of have you got people that are doing this and are having just totally different revenue results to people that are not?
Of course. I always say you can't run 5 miles a day and be fat. That's the same thing. You train correctly, your team will improve drastically. Like, your customer satisfaction will increase. Your employee retention will increase. So lower turnover, lower liability. Everything just exponentially grows when you train people correctly. And you just have to have a culture of learning, right? So like if you get a job here, I ask you, hey, what book are you reading? Oh, I'm not reading any book. You're not reading any books? You're not looking to grow? Well, let me just warn you ahead of time. If you come on board here, we constantly learn. We're always seeking knowledge. We share knowledge. In fact, our mission at our company is to get the knowledge from the people who have it to the people who need it, because we believe with the right knowledge, success is guaranteed, and we want to live in a more successful world. So all we have to do is find the people that have the knowledge and find the people that need the knowledge and deliver it. Now, let me ask you a question. Who do you think has knowledge?
Well, in an organization or
no,
what?
Who has knowledge?
Well, everyone has
Thank
knowledge.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Everyone has knowledge. And who needs knowledge?
Well, you all do.
Everyone does. So that's my mission. Everyone needs my training system.
Not to plug it, but
no, listen, with all kidding aside, most companies are attempting to train their people because of the normal traditional training methods, and our method is a little bit newer to where it hasn't had a lot of time. It's only been cultivating for 20 years. And by the way, you're an overnight success at 20 years. Right now, everybody's like, holy moly, dude, you're killing it. I can't believe how successful you are. You're like an overnight success. But for the first 8 years, no one would listen to me. They're like, nobody's going to train online. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be cool. Trust me, it'll be cheaper, it'll be better, it'll be stronger. But no one listened for the first 8 years. Last 12 years, people are listening. Now, I'm getting phone calls. Our phones are ringing off the hook. Why? I can't fly 50 people in every quarter, and our products are coming out. I'm not the social media expert. I need a social media expert to teach my team how to leverage Instagram. How do you buy ads on Facebook that work? Have you ever heard people say ads on Facebook don't work? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Dude, ads on Facebook work like a charm. I can show you people doing 6, 10, times return on their ad spend. So you spend $1,000, you'll get 10,000 back on Facebook from random strangers. Generation of leads. Do you know how to generate leads? Use the fitness facilities your equipment's in. Do they know how to generate leads? Do they think they do? And by the way, here's a manufacturer tip for you. What if you're the only manufacturer that gave training, lead gen training, to anybody that carried your equipment? What does that mean? You're going to teach their employees how to go get more members at the gym because you're carrying my equipment. I want my equipment used. I want my equipment famous. So if my equipment is in your facility, my job is to get more people into your facility to see my equipment. And that's a win-win, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
don't use these other manufacturers that don't give a rat's dick who comes in your facility. We believe that we are now just as interested in getting people in. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to give usernames and passwords to all of your employees, and we are going to teach them for free how to drive more business into your location. Would that give you any advantages?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
See,
it would.
so that's just an example of how you can use this. You could use the system to not only train your team to be better, but now you're leveraging it to get more business.
Yeah. So one of the things we deliver workshops, how to use kettlebells and how to use Bulgarian bags and a bunch of stuff. And the two challenges we find, which is what you identified, is one that a lot of times, you'll go in and do a face-to-face, and within 3 to 6 months, those people have left. And then secondly, it's having someone in the business that's going to keep that information relevant and fresh, and almost own the responsibility for doing that. If people have a good training system, and we'll use yours as an example, is there a requirement within the business? And have you got to have some champions that are going to sort of take responsibility and drive that and make sure that it is part of the culture? Or is that something that the owners of the business need to ensure happens? What are some of the sort of, I guess, success principles in becoming more of a training based business?
Well, number one, it's just a decision, but somebody in authority has to make. Excuse me. Because it's just a decision. Like, I'm the one in charge here. So if you want to work here, you have to learn and develop and grow. We have a learning culture. It's what we're all about. Like, if you don't want to learn, you don't want to learn anything new, you don't want to develop, you don't want to become better, this isn't the place to work. So coming on board, they know they're going to be training, they're going to be developing, they're going to be tested, they're going to be measured, they're going to be held accountable. So as a business owner, I think everyone would do it. The question is it so difficult? Most business owners, they choose to do it, they just don't know how to do it. But if they have a LightSpeed training system, guess what? They can now inspect what they expect. You can hold one meeting and find out how many people in your company don't listen to you. You walk in, hey, everybody, I want everybody to go in here, take this 4 times. I'll see you on Friday. Don't say another word. Walk out. Friday, press the button. It'll identify the idiots right on the spot. There's no more questioning. Like, I told you to do it. You didn't hear me? You were in the room. I know you heard me, but you didn't do it. Now, my question isn't, did you do it anymore? Which is most owners' questions, like, did you do it? No, all I'm saying is, why is it you do not want to listen to me? So you don't want to follow my direction. Am I not paying you enough? Like, what's the problem? You don't think that's a problem if your employees ain't listening to you? But see, we as owners and business owners and managers, we don't currently know it. Guess what all our people do when we say something? They just nod their head and smile and walk off, because we can't babysit them all. We can't go inspect what we expect by all of them. But guess what? Go look at the top companies, the most organized companies, the most successful companies. I'll bet you they have systems and processes that are measurable. You inspect what you expect. Why not do that for training? So again, if you have a bunch of employees that are like, oh, we have to train. If you said that here, it's the equal of saying, oh, we have to get better. Yeah, you do.
So I guess the first step is you've got to have this culture of learning, training. That's got to be part. And I guess in a lot of businesses, that's probably not as central as what it probably needs to be. So I guess that's the first step. The second step, it sounds like there's some orchestration of what are those key things to be training. So I suppose let's talk about the fitness world. Would you to make a start and progress, would you think of what those key skills are that are really important to my business, such as sales and marketing and customer service? Is that, because my guess is, I'm listening to it and it can sound quite overwhelming because there's so many different parts of the business. But would you, if you had to sort of break this down, number one, you mentioned learning culture. Number two, how would you orchestrate where to start with all those different modules that you could potentially get involved with?
You just identify your pain points, identify your objectives as a company. Like, hey, I need to triple sales. Well, start with sales training. Hey, I need to, slow down my lawsuits. I get sued all day long. Well, then go handle liability. But it's all training. See, here's the thing. Like, when you said, I guess it's essential, people don't realize, like, they'll spend $100,000 to drive customers in a door and zero on training the people to handle those customers. Like, how does that make any sense to you? I've done a test before. I was trying to sell this group my system. They wouldn't buy my system. I'm like, why wouldn't you? Oh, it won't work. It won't do this. It won't do that. I said, I'll tell you what. How much did you spend on advertising? They said $50,000. That's their budget. I said, I'll tell you what. Next month, spend $49,000 on ads and give me $1,000 to simply train your team, just your sales team, by the way, how to handle the traffic coming from that $49,000 ad spend and measure the difference. And every single time we sold more, made more happier customers with the spending $49,000 on ads than spending $50,000. That's a fact. So, like, in the 50, let's just use round numbers for the listeners. Let's say $50,000 got 1,000 people in your door and you closed 20% of them. So you made 200 customers, right? But it was, bait and switch because nobody knew where the loss leader was or how the promotion went or, where to give them their free thermos that they came in for, whatever. So it wasn't very smooth, but you did 20%. So now you spent $49,000 as opposed to $50,000. So you didn't get 1,000 people in the door. You only got 850 in the door. Well, out of the 850, you sold 375 of them because everybody was trained, prepared, and ready for those people to walk in the door. Like, it's almost common sense. It's just normal.
I suppose you could be wasting a lot of money. A lot of people probably are in your marketing if if the person that picks up the phone's not not properly trained to say the right thing. I suppose we all do it.
Well, that's where I was going with it because, again, you can talk people into spending advertising dollars left and right. There's companies spending millions on ads, nothing on training. It's like, listen, take a little out of your ad budget and train the employees on how to handle those people, and you will increase your ROI on your ad spend by 30 to 40%. Just training your people, you'll get 30% more revenue than you're currently getting. Yeah. Just train your people. And it's not even expensive. It's cheap. People always say, well, training's expensive. Well, if you do it manually, it can be expensive. But listen, if you think training's expensive, try not training. That's more expensive. That's right. I forget who said that, but it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. And when you take it then to the next stage, which is let's say you're a trainer and actively working with a client, then can you as an organization then would you create your own trainings that you would get people to do? For example, do you have companies? So you've got a lot of sort of standard off-the-shelf workshops, but do you get people that also create their own and put them into your system and that are their own proprietary education programs and that kind of stuff?
Do we?
Yeah, no. Do you have clients which do that? So
You talking about me?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you've
Well,
got
all
someone
my
who's,
clients do that usually. I mean, like
Right.
Gold's Gym, we help create their content for them, as in services, but this is proprietary Gold's Gym knowledge. How do they want their phones answered? How do they want their personal trainers, to sell the group training, et cetera, et cetera? So all my clients that license my technology, that our platform, they do create their own content and put it in there, their own exclusive proprietary content.
And how have you seen? You said the quality of content is really important, and I guess that makes sense. You know, if you've not got good content, it's not good. But I suppose with creating so much of this, you could have things that are a little bit out of date. How do you get that balance between always being on the top? Is that just something that you have to invest in as a business to make sure the people that are creating your content are always looking? Or is there any things that your system allows you to do to sort of see how good it is?
Well, again, with a proper training technology, which there's only one, but with a proper training technology, you're not really creating content. You're virtualizing knowledge.
Okay.
So we have the knowledge, or we hire the knowledge. Like, you've got knowledge in your head. If you answer this question, if you could clone yourself and have every employee that you have be you, would you make more or less money?
Yeah, I would.
like around here,
in certain
I
roles-
wish I was the only person to answer a phone around here. Every customer call, every customer complaint, every sales opportunity, every single thing around here, I wish I could personally answer the phone. I think we'd do 10 times better. Why? Well, because nobody knows everything I know.
Yeah, well, I suppose that's what a classic entrepreneur mentality, isn't it? You know,
Okay, so my question to that person is, why is that? And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
well,
But
for the
did
owner
you
of
hear
a
what I said,
business,
though?
It's a bad thing because
Thank you.
you're not able to duplicate yourself and develop other people, are you? Really?
Thank you. So when every business owner or entrepreneur thinks in their head, man, if I could do all these jobs, I'd be 10 times better. Nobody knows what I know. Okay, good. That's the problem. So how do we get it out of your head and into a system that can deliver it with repetition, track its understanding, its comprehension, allow people to practice being you, talking like you, answering like you, and hold them accountable to it? Well, you leverage technology because you can't do it very effectively or consistently manually. So I can solve that problem for people. It's like, how do you get it out of your head? Well, now we're talking services. I've got services that I can show you how to map out your whole business in a 1 hour session. And you'd map out everything you need to be in business, training wise. It's simple once you know how to do it. It's like riding a bike. Like, it's not difficult. First thing you do on one side of the board is you write down every single role that you have. And then on the top, write down everything that you train them on. And when you're done, you'll go, holy shit, we don't train anybody on anything.
Is it like do you do it as an induction? So you get a new person in the business and that's where
Onboarding.
you start onboarding.
You start with onboarding. Like a brand new person, here's a password. Before you even get started, here's a password. By the way, I could also show you how, with the same system that you train people with, screen people with. Why? Well, how do you interview people? You go out there and you ask a bunch of questions, right? Well, this allows you to create interactive content. So I could give you a password if you're applying at my organization. You log in on your iPhone in my lobby. I don't care where you go, but here, this is how it begins at my company. Here's a password. Log in. Go through the thing to be considered for employment. Now you log into this interactive video, basically, that replicates what my manager would have sat there and said to you manually, right? But I'm not liable anymore. Why? Because I don't have to wonder what my manager said. I don't have to think, did my manager ask you your age? No. This is a fully compliant, interactive applicant screening tool. Well, wait, Brad, I thought you had a training system. I can show you how to use it for marketing. I can show you how to generate leads. I can show you how to make sales with my training system. it's not necessarily a training system. It just kind of started that way. It's really a web-based interactive training and communication platform. You can do a million things with it.
And
But
what about different types of learning? I was talking to your colleague before, and we were talking about books and then audio books and podcasts and how things
Yeah.
have changed. And I like books, but I find it difficult to sit down and just get the time and read it, whereas audio tends to work a little bit better for me and how my life moves. Do you find that there's different types of learners where people want to watch or read, and how does training tie into those different learning types?
Well, yes, there are different types of people. There's more auditory, visual learners, things like that, and breaks down way more than that. But it depends on how much you want to invest in training, because again, you could theoretically, create a tool that finds out how do these people prefer to learn and then adapt automatically to their learning style. Now, that would be going an extra mile, I'll have to say. But you can do that. And that would be an amazing thing to do, because I have a little goal to try and fix education. I think education's broken, if you ask me. And one of the reasons why is because we send our kids to school. If they don't care who our kids are, they're all going to learn the same thing. Well, our kids are not the same people. So they have different interests, different backgrounds, different strengths, different weaknesses, right? So why don't we allow the curriculum to adapt to the kid rather than force the kid to adapt to the curriculum? That's one example. Another one, the teachers lecture at school, give them homework, send them home to their parents that aren't teachers for the questions. Why can't you lecture them at my house? Because I'm the parent, so I can make sure that they go through your lecture. I'm their parent. I'll make sure they listen to you at home. But then I'm going to send them to school with the questions and the homework. Don't you think that'd work better? These kids come home and they're like, hey, Dad, what's this trigonometry? I don't know. Why? I don't know. Next day at school, guess what? Teacher doesn't have time to answer all those kids. They've got teaching to do. How come the teaching couldn't be done at home? They're not going to say anything different. Record what you were going to say. I'll make sure my kid goes through it 18 times. And then I'll send them to school the next day. And then that's where they'll have questions and you can actually help them.
So in terms of this, in terms of business and learning in business, then are you then using, when they come back to the business environment, they have their manager or supervisor or whatever really there to help with the stuff that they can't figure out with the digital side? So say, for example, we're teaching someone to do kettlebells and they go through it several times and they understand it and watch it, but then the bits where it's like, look, can you help me figure out this piece? That's the face-to-face side. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, yeah, and that could be. And again, there's going to be a million examples and a million exceptions. At the end of the day, number one, do you want to train your people? And if the answer is yes, okay, number two is, you're going to do it manually or virtually? Because if you do it manually, it's expensive, inconsistent, ineffective. It's not very good. It's not a good choice at all. If you do it virtually, you're going to get a gain and an increase, and you're going to save time and money. So if anyone saw the difference, no one would just train manually anymore. Problem is they just don't know it exists. But or they're just not thinking of it. Look at sports over the years. I mean, look at football back in, not even very long ago. They were wearing leather helmets. They didn't know any better. So you learn things and you adapt things. In the future, man, hopefully we'll be born and they'll stick a chip in our head and all the knowledge of the universe will be in our head. Dude, Google's pretty elaborate. What if Google was just a blink of our eye? I could find out anything. But now I'm getting crazy. Let me back it up some.
Yeah, and just on that point though, do you think that? And I don't know anything. I don't know as much as what you know about learning and training. Do you think for a lot of business owners, we just are not putting as much importance on it as what we should do if we knew the benefits for our business? And I've heard you talk about sort of people being motivated by incentives and trying to sort of move away from what they don't want. Do you think that's linked? Because at the moment we don't really see that there's a problem. We're kind of looking at the revenue, and we're not realizing how potentially bad it is for not becoming a learning-based culture.
100%, 100%. That's the problem, is we don't realize. Because if we did, no one would do it. Like, again, think about starting over. Okay, any company that's starting over, including me, I've thought about this a million times. What would we do different? Well, we'd have this system in place, and we'd learn that lesson, and we'd go through, So if you're bringing someone on board tomorrow, why wouldn't you want that person to have all of that knowledge you just said out loud? So if you had a choice, you could hire somebody that's totally up to speed on who you are, what you do, and what you believe. You can hire them that way. Or you can hire them completely oblivious to everything and just tell them all after you hire them. Which one would be the better choice?
If you could choose to have someone ready to go or to train them once you hire them.
Yeah. If you had choice between two people, this person here knows everything about you, everything you want, your goals, your vision, your customers.
Okay, yeah.
They know everything.
Yeah, I'd have that person.
Or this person that doesn't know anything, but they're really eager to learn.
Yeah. Oh, I'd rather have someone who's ready to go. And that's where, I guess that's the mentality that we hope will bring someone into our business.
Okay. And that's never going to happen. So guess what you have to do? You have to create a training system. The key word being a system. Most companies don't have training systems. They have exposure programs. And it's not the same thing. No. So if someone wants a training system to where now it's like, hey, you'd like to work for me? No problem. Here's a password. It takes me 2 seconds to give you a password. That password now lets you into a full motion interactive system that's going to assess you, screen you, educate you, bring you up to speed, and drop you on my doorstep by the next time I even say a word to you. So by the time I do talk to you, you're already up to speed. You're not asking stupid ass questions. You're not wandering around screwing up my business, knocking things over, pissing off customers. You're up to speed. Now, what does it take? Well, it takes a little work. Just like, what does it take to get in shape? Well, it takes a little work. You got to put the work in. So, fortunately though, everybody has the knowledge. They just haven't put it into a system. So if I were a business owner, I would, and I had a crystal ball, I would say that there is nothing more important on earth for a business that wants to grow and scale and thrive to sit down and develop a training system. Because if you plan on scaling and you're not prepared to do so, you're just going to scale chaos, or you're going to be, attached to some people in your organization, and then they get the leverage, meaning, listen, I'm the only dude here that can help you, bro. And if you get rid of me, your ass is screwed. Well, why would you want to be in that position? That's why a lot of times, a lot of these companies are too afraid to get rid of their people because it's so hard to find someone that understands anything. Well, that's because you haven't developed a training system that makes it easy to understand.
Yeah.
Like, dude, develop a training system to where I can give out 1,000 passwords tomorrow, and a week later, there's 1,000 people that fully understand my mission. They totally understand where I've came and where I've been and where I want to go. They're totally down with my cause. They're 100% engaged with my beliefs and my core values. They're aware of who my clients are. They're aware of my manufacturing process. They're aware of my daily idiosyncrasies that might get someone in a scuffle. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could put in there pretty much everything you would say to a new person for the first 3 months and give it to them in a password and say, when you get through that, then we will talk. And I'll bet you the conversations change dramatically. Where a person with no password could walk up and ask a simple question, which would be a good question for that new person to ask. But they ask somebody that's already said it 700 times and the 701st is when they snap. So a brand new employee of yours that you just spent good money to get now gets blown out or offended because some dick got tired of saying the same thing over and over. So this little innocent employee says, "Sir, where do we get the motor oil?" "It's in the effing drawer." "What are you, stupid?" You see what I'm saying? This stuff happens. You're laughing, but it happens on a daily basis. And it's only because, why don't you just virtualize all of this information? Because the interactive video-based person, they're never going to get mad. They're never going to get tired of repeating themselves. They're going to track and measure everything they've said to everybody. They're going to test to make sure they understood it. They're going to store that information in case it's needed in the future. They're going to alert people in certain cases in real time when someone's not capable or aware or, compliant. Like all of this real time, I always say babysitting, even though that's not a PC word. It's babysitting. It's like, dude, you have 400 employees. How do you even tell them about a new product rollout? People are like, "Oh, well, we'll call a webinar and we'll get them all on a webinar." "Oh, yep, that'll do it." That doesn't do it. And by the way, then they go out and they're like, "Well, our product rollout went fantastic. And all we did was a webinar." Well, then imagine what would have happened if you had everybody actually trained. Now, some people might be thinking, "Come on, man, this is getting too extreme." Not every single thing in the world needs all of this. But most businesses that are like in business for any amount of time, that intend to grow and scale, probably want to think about an automated training system to deploy. Otherwise, they're going to spend more money and get far less. It'd be like going to a gas station, paying for a gallon of gas, knowing full well that there's only 2 drops coming out. Like, why would you continue to go to that gas station?
Yeah, the repetition, I think, is a big thing for me. Like, I can see why people that work in an organization may push back from, like, "Are you kidding? Do you want me to do that again?" I can see that being a bit of a challenge.
It does.
And I guess I wasn't aware of the importance. And certainly a lot of people I talk to, it's like, let's do the training, let's get it on, and then we go. But a lot of times, even in what we sell, you go back and they're not delivering what you taught them to deliver. It's changed quite a lot. So I suppose that repetition is key, but I'm sure it's difficult to get people to continue to do the same thing over and over again, like you said.
It's not difficult if you have a system.
Right.
It's only difficult if you try to do it manually.
Yeah. Do you find you get people that are pushing back on that, though? It's like,
yes.
Right. And what do you do?
Well, again, you hold them accountable. At the end of the day, bro, it's like my buddy that got rid of his cameras. If someone's not ready to hold their employees accountable, well, then just, deal with what you have. But when someone's ready, when someone says, "You know what, this is my company, my brand, my future," like, I'm not going to leave it up to a group of employees to determine whether they get better when they're flying my flag. Well, then that's what it's for, because they can walk in, get a system, map out what they need to say or want to say, and literally improve the lives of their own, but more importantly, of their employees. In other words, I wanted to start a grassroots campaign one time where I go talk to employees and basically get the employees to say, "Hey, if your company doesn't have LightSpeed, it's because they don't care about you." But I didn't think that'd go over too well. But it's true.
Have you got any research on that repetition? Is there anything out there?
Of course there is.
There is.
Dude, this isn't new. This is like...
It's new to me.
How many... Listen, think about it. You're driving down the road, you hear a song on the radio.
Yeah.
You love the song. You know you love the song. You heard it. Can you sing it the next time you heard it? Why not? You heard it. Well, because you didn't learn it. Well, how do you learn the song? Well, you're going to go through it. You're going to break it down. You're going to sing it. You're going to rhyme with it. That's why the ABCs as a song helps us learn. But repetition is the key to learning. Okay? Practice is the key to improvement, but to learning, repetition is the key. So that's why, realistically, if you look at school, they go over the same shit all semester, and then they test you to see if you know it or can recall it, which in some cases all they're doing is you're memorizing things. But to memorize to begin with is better than not memorizing. Like, damn it, what do I do when the customer says that again? Oh, where does this product go? What button do I push? You know, I've walked into a fast food restaurant, say, yeah, give me a burger, no onions. And I've sat there for a minute and a half waiting for this prick to figure out where the no onions button is. Now, again, I'm kind of a laid back dude, so it didn't really bother me. But guess what? How many people are all pissed off because this new person can't figure out where the stupid no onions button is? Who's training these people? Like, it's stupid. It's a no onions button. And we're going to let you practice on an irate customer trying to get back to lunch. Well, guess what? You don't realize it, but that person doesn't come back to your organization. Or how much mayonnaise to put on a sandwich. Like, hey, light mayonnaise, and then I get heavy mayonnaise. Well, didn't that idiot tell me? You know, so it's like all of these things start to happen when you actually train people, and your whole life gets better. Where in retrospect, anyone who properly trains their group or their team or their customers, believe it or not, because you can train your customers. Like if I were you, I'd be training my customers and their employees. Why? Because your reputation and your value depends on it. And I wouldn't be saying get on a webinar if I knew there was anything better. You know, I'd say get on a webinar now because I didn't know anything. But a webinar is good for real time. Like I'd still do webinars. Hey, everybody, man, you guys, it's unbelievable. You're going to get so much. What'd you say? Yeah, real time. But then, hey, listen, that webinar would be used to issue passwords to the content that's designed to consume with repetition so I can test and track and measure. And then I can call my customer and say, hey, I know you're not going to be doing very well with my equipment this week. Why? Well, because nobody knows shit about it. How do I know? Because I'm tracking it, folks. You guys are completely unaware of the piece of equipment that's in your organization. And I can fix that, and I should.
I think you're using this successfully in franchises as well, in a franchise type of business.
Franchises love it. The biggest help it gives people is anybody with a high turnover industry. So, you know, obviously fast food restaurants, franchises, MLM, associations. Again, associations that have a lot of members. The problem with associations is they don't onboard their members very well. So the members aren't even really sure of why their membership is so valuable. They don't know how to leverage all the benefits. They're not even aware of them. You know why I have AAA? Because it gives you a discount at Disneyland. The discount's more than the membership by far. My wife goes to Disneyland 5 times a year. I saved $10,000 because I have a AAA card. I don't know what else it does. Do you know why? Because they didn't onboard me. They didn't thank me for my business. They didn't educate me. Yeah, they sent me a card and assumed I know everything I can do with my AAA card, which I don't. I always have new cars. I'm not calling AAA if I got a flat tire. We have, you know, roadside assistance and all that crap. But if they would have sent me a little interactive onboarding, thanked me for my business, asked me a few questions, adapted the content to fit who I am, I might have found out, ooh, I can do this, and I'd be valuing it even more. So that's a dumb example, but it still works.
It's a good example, I guess. What do you do then about, like, I guess in a franchise situation or where you may have other partners that you can't sort of hire and fire if they don't follow it? Is there, how do you sort of bridge that gap and get people to listen to it? Because I guess if you buy a card, you might not be incentivized to go through this. Have you seen people that have been able to make that work successfully? Is that where the webinar comes in and you sell them on going through these types of courses, for example?
Well, yeah, but I've never heard of a franchise that couldn't put that into a franchise agreement. Like if you're going to be one of my franchisees, you're definitely going to protect my brand, or you're not going to be a franchisee.
Right. Okay.
But it's my responsibility as the franchisor to give you an effective training system. So as a franchisor, I would be including my training system to help you succeed, which would make my franchise even that much more valuable. Why? Because our franchise success rate is through the roof. Why? Because we actually train them. We don't expose them. We train them. And not only that, we give them a tool to go back and train everyone they're going to need to train. Because if I'm your franchisee, I'm probably coming out to your headquarters where you and all your team's going to, you know, train me on everything I need to be trained on. and then I'm going to go back and open the business. Well, now who's going to train all those people? Well, I'm going to have to. Well, why not just give me the ability to issue passwords for all of the roles that I'm going to go back and fill? Dude, I'm telling you, I could help the hell out of a franchise and E for that matter.
Yeah. So what do you say? Where does it go next then? This is a world that you're immersed in. Do you see there being a next level for training and education in terms of, what you've got? Is there going to be VR and ability to sort of do more things than you can do at the moment, or what's the future of this business?
Oh yeah, well, holograms, holodecks, AI, voice recognition, really, because I want to make a system where you don't push any buttons, you just talk. And then the right now, I mean, if you saw our interactive video, you'd be like, dude, that's as cool as hell. Well, it's just interactive video. In the future, how do you make that like in VR, virtual reality, or augmented reality? And then in some cases, it's too much. Like, for example, if you're going to do virtual reality, ultimately what that's for is like, if I were to try to teach you to be a bartender with virtual reality, it's worthless because the bar I go get a job at is not the same bar that was in my virtual reality. If I were a chain restaurant and I created, the bar where it is, well, then virtual reality would make sense. So in some cases, virtual reality will be implemented. Safety situations, police officers, first responders, military, pilots, things where death and injury is involved. Virtual reality is an unbelievable way to train. They're already using the hell out of it. But it's just not as advanced as it will be shortly. And then in some cases, again, I'm more concerned about the 28 million small businesses. The Apples. Dude, look, if I never get Apple or General Motors, even though we already have General Motors, but if I never get big companies, that's fine, because you know what? They're making a bunch of money. They can bear the brunt of poor training. But a small to mid-sized business, dude, they don't have millions of dollars. They can't afford the same mistakes. They don't have budgets and research and analysts and venture capitals and Wall Street funding. Dude, they're out there and it's critical, and they need to make some good moves quick. Well, where's that knowledge coming from? Like, I know, because we license our platform to what we call subject matter experts. So I have people that will show a gym right now how to generate 300% more leads than are walking in their door right now. Any gym in the country, I know someone that can show you how to generate 300% more leads than you're getting right now. Right? I know people that'll teach social media, right, skills that'll generate you 300% more leads than you're getting right now. Okay, I know people that'll train your salespeople, me included, on how to handle those customers and close more deals than you're closing right now. So if everyone knew this, the only people that wouldn't do it are just, foolish. Just like, for example, if you said, hey, Brad, I know of a gym right now where if you walk in there one time and go through their exercise program one time, you'll walk out 8% body fat looking like a freaking Greek god. I'd be a member of that gym, period. I don't care about shortcuts and cheating and you got to do the work. No. Just give me the body. But at the end of the day, it's not possible. There is no gym like that. But when it comes to training, look, there's a system. And by the way, the system is just a tool, right? You do have to figure out, okay, so, let's use this tool. I can give you an example. Like in your company, you do train people's employees, right?
Yeah, we train our own employees, we train our distributors, and we train our clients' trainers on how to use our equipment. Yeah.
Okay, so however you're doing that, you're already doing that. The question is what are you saying and doing? So if we can map that out, which we can, very simply, by the next time you do it, record it. That's how hard that is. So you record it, and then you transcribe it, and then you modify, perfect, and then you come into my studios or you get your own. Like you don't even need I've seen people do it with an iPhone. Literally, their whole training system's shot with an iPhone.
And your interactivity, it's and just for people who probably don't know, so when you're watching it, it's not just like watching a video. You can actually go into it and you can choose at different points. So you come to a crossroads and you can answer different questions at that point, and then go down a different pathway. Is that kind of essentially how it works?
100%. Because what are you trying to do? You're trying to emulate what you would have said in real life, and in real life, you ask questions and you respond accordingly. If you're training someone one-on-one, like if I were going to train you right now on your equipment, I'd say, "Are you familiar with all the equipment we carry?"
Yeah.
You are? Okay. Pick out the double whammy 3000. Oh, no, sorry. That's not the double whammy, friend. Now, how do I make that in a studio? Same way I'd make a video. Like, there's no difference. What makes it interactive is the question. Well, that's the technology. LightSpeed allows you to create interactive content. So it lets you take regular video and turn it into interactive video like that. So it's like, that's why.
So you'd basically film 2 videos. So it's like, okay, are you familiar with the new kettlebell?
Cut.
Okay.
Now, if they say yes.
Okay. So you go down one.
Exactly.
route.
Now, so if I'm directing you, I'd say, if they say yes, and you'd go, "Oh, perfect. Cut." Okay. If they said no, I'm going to have to tell them about it. Well, then tell me about it. And then I'd capture that. And then when you put it into the LightSpeed system, it would say, did you hear? If yes, play this. If no, play this.
Okay.
And it sews it all together, which is really the most people don't understand, but that's really the incredible part, because if someone were to try to do this manually, it would take an extreme amount of money, a large team of people, program developers, software writers. Like, it would take a lot of different people to even make a 10-minute thing, and it wouldn't track, it wouldn't measure, it wouldn't store, it wouldn't alert, it wouldn't notify. Like, it would just be the piece itself. So with LightSpeed, you just plug in all your videos, and the system sews them all together and blends them seamlessly into an interactive experience.
And you can either do that yourself through your tutorials, or you can get assist. Like, if you're a large company, you could tell them how to structure the video so they can put it in themselves.
Yeah, like Gold's Gym. I mean, they've been out several times. We're about ready to do something for them. They didn't want to do it. They can do it. They didn't want to do it. Their teams are busy doing other things. They're like, here. They wrote a check, said, make this for us. Send us an employee manual, for example. Virtualize our manual. Because if you're opening a manual, I wish I had mine here, by the way. Mine's pretty unique. But if you open a manual and you start to read it, what's the difference between logging in and someone starting to say it? What's the difference?
Well, for me, it would be easier to watch someone saying it than...
And believe it or not, nowadays with the millennials and the up and comers, like people, 10 years ago was worse. People are old, they won't do this. Well, guess what? Those old people are dying. Okay, the new people, they demand it. Like, they're growing up on Xboxes and iPads and iPhones. If you don't give them something slick, dude, they're gonna think you're an old, outdated company anyway. But yeah, I mean, you ultimately just virtualize everything that you would have said and done just as easily as you would have done it in person. Because again, if I said to you, I'll start your company right now, you'd be like, okay, go see, whomever. They'd sign me up, right? And then they'd say, here's our book, and this is the so-and-so, and this, everything they would say to me, just record it. So now the system can deliver that person saying it to me with repetition when needed, without bothering this person. This person already said it once. Why say it again? Here's another question I like to pose to people. Okay. Do you value time?
Absolutely.
So why would you say things more than once?
You got me on that one.
And how many times have you told your company story to a new hire? And if you don't do what I'm talking about, how many more times are you going to tell somebody? Or worse, you're not. You're going to hope someone else is. And guess what? They don't even remember what the hell you said. So now 8 years later, you think something is happening at your company when it's actually not. It's a diluted, perverted version of the truth, and you're not even aware of it because you're a founder that's like since removed, and now you have, executives upon executives, like big companies. This would be such a powerful move for a big company to actually come in there and just cut it down to, look, folks, here's how we onboard, here's how we train. Managers take over after that. Or trainers use these tools to do the job. Like I said, it doesn't replace a trainer. It would give a trainer a tool to be effective. Like the trainer can make sure people are doing it. A trainer can inspect the content that's going in it. But why would you have a human being, a trainer, go and try and be perfectly consistent 3,000 times and expect that that's actually happening? Because it's not. I've done it. Again, I did it for years the old way, and I did it at my company successfully, fairly successfully, the hard way. But dude, I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I was only training 5 or 10 people. And then by the time I finished and someone started to get good, guess what? They got a big Superman S on their chest and they quit because some other company stole them from me because I had them trained and ready to go. So then most people are like, well, shit, dude, every time we train them, they quit and they leave. So let's just quit training them? That's your answer? Yeah. No, dude, train them more efficiently. Train them more easily to where, hey, if someone leaves, yeah, it's a bummer, but guess what? You can go grab another burger flipper and turn them into somebody special at your company. Why? Well, because you created a training system that teaches normal people how to be special in your organization. Yeah. Or you can keep trying to do it manually.
So where can people find out about this then, Brad? If someone's likes, I guess I'm hoping it's sort of sparked off a lot of questions. Certainly it has me, and it's kind of made me feel quite as though we need to do something now. But if people want to speak to someone and get the lowdown on the different options, where can they go and who should they call?
Well, and I should thank you for this podcast because I didn't know we'd make it just a complete, LightSpeed commercial, but it is about training.
Well, I guess
more
me it's about
it is.
I don't want it to sound like it is a commercial, but I think the essence of it is, we're in the fitness space. We work with a lot of clubs and trainers and franchisees, and one of the challenges is getting a consistent level of training, because at the end of the day, trainers are training other people. And so I think it's, the reason I wanted to talk about this, because I think there's a lot of value to people if they could just not shut up a few levels. And, I guess that's your system that does that.
Well, again, a long time ago, I said, why not take personal training online? Everyone said, can't be done. Is there personal training online now? Is it successful?
I think there's some successful companies out there doing it.
Huge. And I know people that have online coaches. They've never met in person. They've never been to the gym with them, and they've done wonders. But guess what? Fraction of the cost. Why? Because times are changing, people. We have to change with them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, anyway, so I digress. Listen, I thank you for having me on. I didn't mean it to sound like a commercial. Anyone can do this without LightSpeed. So let me give you some value. Number one, if you want to create a training program, just take everything I said and deliver it with repetition, accountability, practice, and role play. Do it as best you can. But if you want help or you want a technology that is designed for this, then you would call us, which is LightSpeed VT. You can book your own demo online, or you can call our number, and we'd be happy to give you a quick demo. But it's so easy to see. I mean, everyone that calls us usually just signs up with us. The only question is, how do we make all the content and how much money is it? Because if you have your own cameras, you don't need us for anything. And believe it or not, I used to charge $25,000 to set up a system, and I waived it. So now you can set up a system for free. Like, go set it up yourself. Inside, we train you on how to build all that, so you can have at it. But we also have services, all the services you can think about. And it's funny, too, because you have all these personal trainers in the world that they all waving their certificates around. I see them all the time. And I'm like, oh, you're a personal trainer. You making any money? They're like, not really. Well, you know what a latissimus dorsi is, don't you? Oh, yeah. Well, where's your sternocleidomastoid? Oh, I know where that is. Okay, good. But you aren't making any money? No. Why? Well, no one's teaching me that. Do you see the problem? Why wouldn't a gym that wants to attract more personal trainers, for example, teach them how to make money as a personal trainer? So like companies can not only train their internal employees better, train the things, but they can also use it to attract better, more prospects. There's a million ways to use it. I don't even know what to say anymore.
And yeah, it's certainly there's certainly a lot to think about, and there's a lot of different routes you can take. But I guess the fundamental part is if you can get a culture of learning and training, then certainly it's a worthwhile thing to put some time and energy into.
Well, let's call it what it is. It's just a choice. Like if you're the owner, you're the manager, and you have the authority to do so. It's just a choice. Would you like to have a highly trained staff that does everything right, or not?
So the other areas people can get in touch with you is tell me a bit about your podcast, because you've had some fantastic guests on there, and why you're doing tell us about Dropping Bombs and why you're doing it and what people can expect from listening to it.
Well, Dropping Bombs is my podcast that I started because, again, we have a lot of subject matter experts that use our system and they go out and sell their training to companies. So I get experts in here all day long on all kinds of things. And so I thought to myself, man, I should get a couple of microphones and start picking their brain on challenges and things that they know to help people out there struggling or people out there building businesses. So I got two microphones together and just started recording conversations. And then I uploaded them. Next thing you know, it went to like 9 in the country. Everyone likes it because it's kind of raw and it's real and it's conversational. It's not staged. And that's how it began. And now it's like, it's getting big. I like it. It's fun because, my whole goal is to share knowledge with people because I think that's going to make the world more successful. So when I get, Daymond John comes in here. Well, man, I need to pick his brain. Grant Cardone walks in. I'm going to pick his brain. You walk in. I'm going to pick your brain. Like we're going to have conversations. And throughout the 200 and some episodes we've done, man, I'm telling you, I've had people say I changed their life. I've had people say I saved their life. There was one guy that was going to commit suicide. Literally that day was listening to Dropping Bombs, and whatever me and that guest talked about changed their mind. Wow. Yeah, so that's the reason I do it, is just to help people maybe avoid mistakes and pain in their life that some of us have not been smart enough to avoid. I'm writing a book called The Hard Way, which is basically lessons I learned the hard way so you don't have to. I've got my closer school. Everything I started with is the ability to close deals like a closer. Like people always make a joke because all the people that teach people closing, I close them. So they're like, you're the dude that closed the dude that teaches us to close. So my sales and closing masterclass is at a thing called Closer School. So you can find me anywhere. Instagram, The Real Brad Lee. Facebook, all that, The Real Brad Lee. And that's LEA. But other than that, LightSpeed.
Is there a non-real Bradley then?
There is, actually.
There is.
You know what's funny? If you look him up, it's the fake Bradley. It's somebody out there that started a parody account that's called the fake Bradley. And he's funny. Whoever it is funny. I mean, they make memes and it's funny. It's funny stuff. I follow him.
Very good. So final question then, Brad. Escape Your Limits is about escaping what you've believed has been impossible and gone on to make it possible. What would be an example of you escaping your own personal limits?
Well, I think where I'm at today is proof. I mean, I dropped out of high school at 16. I got kicked out of my house for not mowing the lawn. And like most 16-year-olds, I made pretty good decisions. And I decided, why go to school? So I dropped out of school, ended up freaking running around like an idiot, getting in trouble, being a little juvenile delinquent. Like I shouldn't be the CEO of a tech company doing business with some of the top Fortune, 1,000 companies internationally, buddies with some of the, best authors. Like I shouldn't be here. I'm a living example that you can escape your limits. And here's what I think. I think it's all based on your mind. Like, I think everything boils down to your mindset. It's the choices you make that determine the road you'll take. And a lot of people are out there ungrateful. Their perspective is wrong, and they don't know how to get out of their own way. Like, for example, grateful. If I gave you $1 million, would you be pumped for the day? If I just handed it to you?
Yeah, it would change my day a little bit.
Okay. Some people think, man, that'd change my whole month. I wouldn't be pissed for a week. Well, would you rather have $1 million or life?
Or when you say life, what do you mean?
Life. Like I say, I'll give you $1 million, but you won't wake up tomorrow.
Oh, right.
Would you want the million, or would you want to wake up tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we all know that life is more valuable than $1 million. Yet every morning when we open our eyes and realize that we get another day of it, we're not grateful. We act as if, oh, I got to go to work. No, you get to go to work. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Our perspective is wrong. So anybody that has a limited mindset just doesn't understand perspective. And what's crazy is perspective is a choice. You get to choose your perspective.
Have you had to work on your own perspective?
1,000%. And fortunately, I've always been a little optimistic. Like, I figured, I would be a multimillionaire within 90 days of starting LightSpeed. And like I said, 8 years later, it wasn't going. I was way too early. The internet just came out when we started. I was the first one to ever make a course for training online. Like, when I started my training online, there was nobody training online. So I was way early. I thought everyone would get it. Foolishness. I couldn't read a contract. I gave away 66% of the company to a couple of buddies for nothing, basically. Had to buy them out. Like, I'm telling you, I've learned the hard way my entire life. So that's proof that you can escape your limit. And when it boils down to it, it's a choice. It's a mindset. It's a perspective. Like, there's a saying, I forget who said it, but, I used to be pissed that I had no shoes until I met a man with no feet. It's a perspective. And if people can just understand that, we have no limits.
What's kept you going? What's your why that keeps you? Like, now, I guess you probably don't need to work quite as hard as what you do, and you obviously very driven. I speak to your team and see how hard how much you're doing, and how much 2 podcasts a week. What keeps you motivated and drives you to want to do this?
I believe. Well, number one, I want to help people, but I also want to be a billionaire with a B.
Billionaire.
Yeah.
Why do you want to do that?
Just because it's not easy. I mean, everyone's a millionaire now, isn't it?
It's pretty popular compared to what
Dude,
it was.
I know 15-year-old kids making $1 million online. You can get on TikTok with a viral video and bam, make $1 million a year. You can get on YouTube with a viral video. There's a 7-year-old or however old that kid is on YouTube that opens presents. Dude, he made $23 million in revenue last year. Millionaire is somewhat easy nowadays. Like, 100 million to me is the new millionaire, and $1 billion is still the Mac Daddy. So I'm just trying to get to $1 billion for the goal and the accomplishment, and that's what I want. And then, most importantly, because once I have $1 billion, I'm going to go around the world, helping people financially. Because advice is good. I've gotten a lot of good advice that helped a lot, but sometimes a check would help way more than some advice. Yeah. Like, what if your, child needed $40,000 to get a transplant of some kind, and you didn't have it, and you couldn't get it? Like, can you imagine what that would feel like? Well, dude, if I got $1 billion, you can't spend $1 billion. You can't spend $100 million. So if I had $1 billion, I'd just cruise around the world, because I want to travel anyway. I'd just cruise around the world looking for good people to bless financially.
And is that a big gear shift from what you're doing? Have you got to get involved in other businesses, or is LightSpeed your vehicle to get you where?
Dude, it's whatever it takes. Like LightSpeed's the only focus right now. I'm sure that one of these days, it'll get to a point where someone will give me $1 billion for it, and in which case, who knows? I'd have to wait. We're a ways away from that. Yeah, man, we're a ways away from that. I wish I had a brilliant exit strategy, but I don't. Like, I like what I do. I come in every morning. It's fun working here. I get to hang out with smart people, good people, fun people, famous people. I got a beautiful family. I'm enjoying myself.
So you're happy without the big B, but
it's there. It's looming,
right?
Because you ever set a goal that you just want to hit?
Yeah, for me, I think it's good to set things outside just for the hell of it. Mine's not to be a billionaire, but I set.
Do you believe it's possible?
I suppose it's not my focus. I get.
Do you think it's possible?
I think anything's possible, but I get what's required to do it, and I suppose sacrifice. It's like starting a business. You've got to sacrifice a lot to get it, and it's just whether it's worth sacrificing what I'd need to. For that, I suppose I haven't.
It's priority.
Yeah, it's priority.
Yeah, it's like abs. You have abs?
I do.
See,
yeah.
I don't. I would have gave the same answer you just gave about $1 billion. I don't really. I don't know.
I can help you with that.
So,
if you help me with the billionaire bit, let's trade. Yeah,
let's do. Because that's another thing. Win-win.
Yeah.
It's got to be win-win. One time I'm 8 years old. My dad never really gave us any allowance, but he would tell us that, you can go work. So, like, you mow the lawn, go ask the neighbors, move their trash, whatever. So I went down to my neighbor's house, bottom of the hill we lived on, and I said, hey, can I earn a little side money? He said, sure. What do you want to do? I said, I don't know. What do you got to do? He said, well, here's a bucket. Go pull weeds. I'll give you $0.25 a weed. Well, my grandpa had taught me how to, like, with one finger, just snap weeds by the root, pop, 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 I just knew how to do it. So I was out there 2-3 hours. He must have forgot I was out there. I knock on the door. I dump the bucket out. I had like 800 and some weeds in a bucket, and he owed me $0.25 a weed. Now, this dude wasn't expecting to owe me hundreds of dollars. His face kind of turned like he didn't really know what to do. And when he paid me, he said that was it. And I walked home fired. And like I'd always heard, all you got to do is work hard. And I'm thinking, okay, so let me work hard. Let me do a good job. That's all you have to do. Well, I did that, and then I got fired. And I'm walking home, and I'm thinking, what the hell? But as I grew up, I realized I got fired because it wasn't win-win.
Yeah.
So it's always got to be a win-win scenario.
So I think we'll have an interesting conversation off camera. But Brad, I appreciate the value you've given. It's like I say, I've certainly learnt a lot. I really hope that people are listening will get a lot of value. And please check out LightSpeed and Dropping Bombs podcast. Thank you so much for your time today, Brad.
Thank you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.